Hello and welcome to Lucid Mind Chemistry channel with Majid. In this video, I'll be solving Chemistry O-Levels Multiple Choice, Paper 11 from October-November 2018. You can go to any particular question by following timestamps given in the video description. Let's start.
Question 1. A student titrates aqueous sodium hydroxide, which is alkali, from a burette with dilute hydrochloric acid in a conical flask. After the titration is complete, the conical flask is emptied. What is the correct procedure before taking the next titration? Now, acid will react with alkali to form salt and water. This is a neutralization reaction in which sodium chloride and H2O is formed. A. Rinse out the conical flask with aqueous sodium hydroxide. This is incorrect because distilled water is used. Again, B says to rinse it with hydrochloric acid. This is also incorrect because this will change the readings. C. Rinse out the conical flask with distilled water. This is true statement. Part D. Use the conical flask again without rinsing. Now this is incorrect because there are components present in conical flask that needs to be washed. Correct answer is therefore C. Question 2. The results of paper chromatography experiment are shown. X is an aqueous solution of salt of group 1 element. Y is an aqueous solution of salt of transition element. This is the solvent front, that is the distance traveled by solvent from origin line, and these are the spots. This is component X and this is component Y, which is separated. Which row is correct? In first, we have to find which RF value is larger, and secondly, we have to find whether which one requires a locating agent. Now, RF depends on the distance traveled by spot divided by distance traveled by solvent. Both are measured from baseline or origin line. As we can see that the spot of X is below the spot of Y. So X travels less distance as compared to Y, so RF value of X should be lower than that of Y. So larger RF value is shown by Y. Secondly, we have to find out which one requires a locating agent. Now, locating agent is actually used for colorless substance. Now, as X was an aqueous solution of group 1 element, while Y was an aqueous solution of transition element. Now we know that transition elements are colored compounds, so therefore Y does not need locating agent. Only X needs locating agent as X is from group 1 and it is not colored. Correct answer is therefore C. Question 3. A substance dissolves in water to form a colorless solution. This solution reacts with aqueous silver nitrate in the presence of dilute nitric acid to give a yellow precipitate. What is possible identity of the substance? First thing is that the substance dissolves in water, it means it is soluble. Now all these salts are soluble: calcium iodide, copper chloride, iron iodide and sodium chloride. But we can see that copper 2 chloride and iron 2 iodide, as copper 2 and iron 2 are members of transition elements, so therefore they will form colored solution instead of colorless. So B and C are incorrect. Then we have calcium iodide and sodium chloride. Now in the presence of silver nitrate, calcium iodide, it can react to form silver iodide and calcium nitrate. Now silver iodide is yellow precipitate, so therefore A could be the correct option. With sodium chloride, we can see that it will form a precipitate of silver chloride along with sodium nitrate. Now silver chloride is white precipitate, so therefore D is incorrect. Correct answer is A. Question 4. Which statements are correct? Number 1. The volume of gas at constant pressure increases as the temperature increases. This is true statement because when temperature is increased, the kinetic energy is also increased, so therefore volume of gas increases. 2. The rate of diffusion of gas increases as the temperature increases. Again, this is a correct statement because diffusion is also proportional to temperature. This is because at higher temperature, kinetic energy of molecules is higher, so therefore the collisions in molecules will be higher and diffusion will be faster. 3. The pressure of gas at constant volume decreases as the temperature increases. This is incorrect because temperature is directly proportional to pressure. When temperature is increased, kinetic energy increases, the pressure of gas also increases. As 1 and 2 is correct, so therefore answer is B. Question 5. Which row shows the number of particles in this given? Sulfur -2. We have to find out protons, neutrons and electrons. This is the atomic number, which is also the number of protons. So number of protons is 16. This shows the charge. It means 2 electrons are gained by neutral sulfur. So as in neutral sulfur 16 protons were present, so 16 electrons were also present. Now 2 electrons are gained to make it -2. So total number of electrons is now 18. Third is to find the number of neutrons. Now neutrons is equal to nucleon number minus atomic number. There are 18 neutrons present. Correct answer is B. Question 6. Which substance has a giant covalent structure at room temperature? A. We have methane. Methane is CH4 and it is a gas at room temperature because it has simple molecular structure. So A is incorrect. B is sand. Sand is SiO2. The structure of sand is such that one silicon bonds to 4 oxygen atoms and each oxygen atom binds itself with 2 silicon. Then again one silicon is bonded to 4 oxygen atoms and this structure continues. Silicon dioxide is also solid at room temperature and the structure is giant covalent. So this could be the correct option. C. We have sodium chloride. In sodium chloride we have sodium ions and chloride ions present. Each sodium ion is surrounded by chloride ions and each chloride ion is again surrounded by sodium ions. So the structure is giant ionic as ionic bonding is present. So therefore this is not covalent. D is water. Water is not a solid at room temperature because the formula is H2O and it is simple molecular. It is not giant covalent. So D is incorrect. Correct answer is B. Question 7. Magnesium oxide has a high melting point. It is used to line the inside of furnaces that operate at higher temperatures. Why does magnesium oxide have a high melting point? Now magnesium oxide is composed of magnesium, which is a metal, and oxygen, which is a non-metal, so the bonding is ionic and the structure is giant ionic lattice. A, it has metallic bonds. Now this is not a metal, it is ionic compound, so therefore this is wrong. B, it has strong forces between its molecules. Magnesium oxide is not comprised of molecules, it is comprised of positive and negative ions. C, it is a simple molecular substance. This is also incorrect because it is giant ionic substance. D, it is an ionic compound. This is true statement. Correct answer is therefore D. Question 8. What is the dot and cross diagram for NCl3? Now in NCl3 we have nitrogen. Nitrogen belongs to 5th group of the periodic table, so it has 5 valence electrons. While chlorine is also a non-metal, it belongs to group 7 of the periodic table and it has 7 valence electrons. Now nitrogen needs 3 more electrons to complete its outermost shell, so therefore it will share its 3 electrons with chlorine, and chlorine needs 1 electron to complete its outermost shell, so therefore it will share just 1 electron with nitrogen. Let's first find out the number of electrons in the valence shell of nitrogen. In A we can see we have 1, 2, 3 electrons present in the outer shell of nitrogen, which is incorrect. In B we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 electrons present in the outermost shell of nitrogen, which is correct. For chlorine we can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 electrons present in the outermost shell. This is wrong because chlorine must have 7 electrons. Part C, we can see nitrogen has 5 electrons in outer shell and chlorine has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 electrons present in the outer shell. So as all chlorine has 7 electrons and nitrogen has 5 electrons, and we can see that nitrogen is making 3 single covalent bonds with 3 chlorine atom, and each chlorine atom is making 1 single covalent bond with nitrogen. So now the outer shell of chlorine is also complete and the outer shell of nitrogen is also complete because it has 8 electrons. So C seems to be correct. In D again we can see nitrogen just has 3 electrons present in the outer shell, which is wrong. Correct answer is therefore C. Question 9. 2 properties of a metal are given. 1. It is malleable. 2. It conducts electricity. Which of these properties are due to layers of positive ions being able to move? Now malleable means it can be converted into different shapes, and electricity conduction is due to the presence of free electrons. In electricity conduction, only free electrons are moved, positive ions stay in place, while in malleability, different shapes can be made because in metals, the layers of positive ions are able to move over each other, so different shapes can be formed. So it is 1 only. Answer is A. Question 10. What are the relative formula masses of 1 mole of solid magnesium and 1 mole of gaseous chlorine? For 1 mole of solid magnesium we have 1 mg. For 1 mole of gaseous chlorine, as chlorine is diatomic in nature, so the formula is Cl2. Now from the periodic table we can see that the atomic mass of magnesium is given as 24. So therefore it is 24, that is the relative formula mass. While for chlorine atom it is 35.5 in the periodic table. So as we have 2 chlorine atoms present in the chlorine gas, so we can multiply 35.5 with 2. So it will become 71. Correct answer is C. Question 11. Complete combustion of a hydrocarbon produces only CO2 and H2O. This is the hydrocarbons. We have pentane, which reacts with oxygen to form carbon dioxide and water. When 0.1 moles of hydrocarbon is completely combusted, which volume of CO2 measured at room temperature and pressure is produced? So in the equation we have to consider this hydrocarbon and CO2. Now as the equation is balanced, we can see that we have this hydrocarbon and CO2. In balanced equation, the number of moles is 1:5. So 1 mole of hydrocarbon produces 5 moles of CO2. Now they have given 0.1 mole of hydrocarbon. So now we can find the number of moles of carbon dioxide produced by cross multiplying. So X will be equal to 0.1 into 5, which is 0.5 moles of CO2. Now we can convert moles into volume. The formula used is volume in decimeter cube is equal to number of moles into 24 decimeter cube. Now we can put the values. We have 0.5 as number of moles, so 0.5 into 24, it will be equal to 12 decimeter cube. Now this is the volume of carbon dioxide that is produced by combustion of 0.1 mole of this hydrocarbon. Answer is therefore D. Question 12. What is observed during the electrolysis of aqueous copper 2 sulfate using carbon electrodes? In aqueous copper 2 sulfate, we have copper plus 2, sulfate negative 2. We also have H plus ions and OH negative ions because of the presence of water. Part A pink solid is deposited on the anode. Now anode is positive electrode and anions move towards anode. Among these anions, OH negative is discharged into oxygen, so therefore no pink solid is deposited. B. Bubbles form on the negative electrode. Now cations move towards negative electrode, and among these cations, copper plus 2 will be discharged to copper solid. So no bubbles are formed on the negative electrode. This is because copper is more easily discharged as compared to H+. So copper solid is formed instead of hydrogen gas. Part C. The color of solution fades. Now in solution we had the color because of the presence of copper plus 2. Now as copper plus 2 is moving towards cathode and it is getting discharged, so as the concentration decreases, the color also starts to fade. Part D. The negative electrode becomes smaller. This is incorrect statement because electrode is not getting dissolved. Correct answer is therefore C. Question 13. Electrolysis is used to plate a metal statue with silver. The statue is an electrode in a suitable electrolyte. Which row is correct? We have to find out at which electrode statue is going to be used and which electrolyte is going to be used. As we are electroplating silver on the metal statue, so silver must be made as anode. Because anode dissolves in the solution and the solution must also be a salt of anode, soluble salt of anode. So the solution must be of silver, that is soluble. So as all nitrates are soluble, so we can take silver nitrate solution. The metal statue will be made as cathode. Because silver cations from the solution, they move towards the cathode and they are deposited on the metal statue. Correct answer is therefore B. Question 14. Which statements about endothermic reactions are correct? Now, endothermic reactions are those reactions in which energy is absorbed from the surroundings. Number 1. Energy is absorbed from the surroundings. This is a true statement. Number 2. Energy is released to the surroundings. This happens in exothermic reaction, not in endothermic reactions. 3. The temperature of the reaction mixture falls. This is correct because in endothermic reactions, the temperature shows decrease in the reading. For example, if initial temperature was 20 degrees centigrade, then in endothermic reaction it will decrease to, let's say, 10 degrees centigrade or anything else that is lower than 20. 4. The temperature of the reaction mixture rises. This is only true for exothermic reactions, not for endothermic. So statement 1 and 3 are correct. Answer is A. Question 15. The equation represents the reaction between two gases. We have X2 gas and Y2 gas, which react together to form compound XY. The energy profile diagram for the reaction is shown. We have reactants and products. Which statement about this reaction is correct? A. The activation energy for the reaction is equal to E. Now, activation energy is the energy that is required by the reactants to go into the transition states. So, part A is incorrect. B. The enthalpy change for the reaction is equal to E. Now, the enthalpy change is actually the difference of energy between the reactants and products. This is also incorrect. C. The reaction is exothermic. As we can see that the energy of products is lower than the energy of reactants. So we can find the enthalpy change. Energy of product minus energy of reactants as energy of product is less than the energy of reactant, so therefore the answer will be negative, and negative enthalpy means that the reaction is exothermic in nature. Also, we can see that the reactants were at higher energy and products are at lower energy, so the energy from reactant is actually released to form the product. So option C is correct. D. The total energy needed to break bonds. Now, energy needed to break bonds is endothermic, is greater than the total energy needed to form bonds. Now, the energy needed to make bonds is exothermic in nature. So, it says endothermic is greater than exothermic. So, overall the reaction should be endothermic, which is incorrect because this reaction is exothermic in nature. Correct answer is therefore C. Question 16. The equation shows the reaction for the manufacture of ammonia. We have nitrogen gas that reacts with hydrogen gas to form ammonia gas, which change will decrease the activation energy for the reaction. Now you must remember that activation energy is always decreased by the use of catalyst. It is not decreased by anything else. So addition of catalyst is correct option. Answer is A. Question 17. When bismuth chloride BiCl3 is added to water, a reaction occurs and a white precipitate of BiOCl is formed. Which changes increase the mass of white precipitate formed? It means that which change would make this reaction go in the forward direction to make more white precipitate? Number 1. Adding more water. Now, as water is the reactant, if you are going to increase the amount of reactant, the equilibrium will move in the forward direction and more white precipitate will be formed. 2. Adding aqueous sodium hydroxide. Now, as sodium hydroxide is alkali, it will react with HCl and HCl concentration will be reduced. So, as the concentration of product is reduced in an equilibrium, the reaction will move in the forward direction in order to undo that change. So, more white precipitate will be formed. This is also true. 3. Adding dilute hydrochloric acid. Now, hydrochloric acid is the product. If we are going to add more HCl, the concentration of product will increase. So, the equilibrium will move in the backward direction. So, therefore, C is wrong. Correct answer is A. Question 18. Calcium carbonate reacts with dilute hydrochloric acid to produce carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide is collected using the apparatus shown. This is the apparatus. We have gas syringe that is required to collect CO2 gas. We have conical flask and reaction mixture is present in the conical flask. The reaction is done 4 times. For each reaction, 25 grams of calcium carbonate and an excess of hydrochloric acid is used. Which reaction mixture fills the gas syringe with carbon dioxide in the shortest time? So we have to find out the reaction rate. So the fastest reaction rate would be the answer. In A and B we have lumps of calcium carbonate. In C and D we have powdered calcium carbonate. Now lumps of calcium carbonate has less surface area as compared to powdered calcium carbonate. So the reaction with powdered calcium carbonate will be faster as compared to the lumps. Second thing is the concentration. In C we have 1 mole per decimeter cube hydrochloric acid. In D we have 2 moles per decimeter cube of hydrochloric acid. So higher concentration means faster chemical reaction. So the fastest reaction will be in D. Correct answer is therefore D. Question 19. Many reactions involve oxidation and reduction. Which statement is correct? Part A. Acidified manganate ions change color from colorless to purple when reduced. Now acidified manganate ions are actually oxidizing agent. And it is purple in color. So when oxidizing agent is reduced, it changes from purple to colorless. B. All reactions that involve oxidation also involves reduction. This is true. For example, we have sodium that reacts with chlorine. Oxidation state of sodium is 0. For chlorine it is also 0. It forms sodium chloride. Now from 0 to plus 1 is oxidation and 0 to minus 1 is reduction. Part C. During a reaction, oxidizing agents lose electrons. Now in this reaction, sodium was oxidized, so therefore this is reducing agent. And chlorine was reduced, so therefore this is oxidizing agent. Now we can see that chlorine has moved from 0 to minus 1 oxidation state. It means it has gained electrons. So oxidizing agent does not lose electron, they gain electrons. Part D. Reduction is the loss of hydrogen from a compound. Reduction is the gain of hydrogen, it is not the loss. Correct answer is B. Question 20. 3 separate mixtures of solution and solid are made as shown in the table. The mixtures are warmed. In which mixture does gas form? First is the reaction of sodium hydroxide aqueous with ammonium salt. Now we know that when ammonium salt is reacted with alkali, it forms ammonia gas along with salt and water. The reaction would be like this. The product is salt, which is sodium chloride, water, along with the production of ammonia gas. So A and B could be correct. Then we have second reaction in which sulfuric acid reacts with ammonium chloride salt. Now ammonium chloride salt only produces gas with alkali, it does not react with acid. In third one we can see that sulfuric acid aqueous reacts with magnesium solid. Now magnesium is a metal and metal reacts with acid to form salt and hydrogen. The salt formed will be magnesium sulfate along with hydrogen gas. Correct answer is B. Question 21. Insoluble salts are prepared by reacting aqueous solutions of soluble salts. A precipitate forms. Which pairs of aqueous solutions form a precipitate? Now, precipitate is an insoluble salt that is formed by combining two soluble salt solutions. First one is the reaction of barium chloride with nitric acid. So we have BaCl2 with nitric acid, which is HNO3. So it will form barium nitrate along with HCl. Now barium nitrate is a soluble salt because all nitrates are soluble. HCl is also soluble, so no precipitation reaction occurs. In second one, we have barium chloride that reacts with sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid is H2SO4. Now it will form barium sulfate along with HCl. Barium sulfate is an insoluble salt, so therefore this reaction will form a precipitate of barium sulfate. In third one, we have barium nitrate and nitric acid. Now we can see that the anion in both barium nitrate and nitric acid is same, so therefore the reaction will not occur. For barium nitrate and sulfuric acid, again this will be the same. Barium sulfate will be formed, and barium sulfate is an insoluble solid along with nitric acid, which is soluble. So 2 and 4 make precipitate, so therefore answer is C. Question 22. The diagram shows the main stages in the manufacture of an ammonia-based fertilizer. What is happening in the process labeled X? Now nitrogen and hydrogen is reacting together in the presence of iron, 500 degrees centigrade and 200 atmosphere pressure. Then it forms ammonia and separation takes place. Ammonia is condensed in the form of liquid and unreacted gases are then put back into the reaction chamber. Let's look at the options. In A, ammonia is returned to the start of the process. It is not ammonia that is returned, it is unreactive gases that are returned. B, the gases are cooled to cause ammonia to form a liquid. It is done in separation, not in X process. C, unreacted hydrogen only is recycled. No, not only hydrogen, but nitrogen is also recycled. Correct option is D. Question 23. What is the use of sulfuric acid? A, as a bleach. It is not used as a bleach. B, as a food preservative. It is a strong acid, so it is not used as food preservative. C, in the manufacture of detergents. This is true because sulfuric acid is king of chemicals and it is used to make a lot of chemicals. D, in the manufacture of vanadium pentaoxide. This is a catalyst and it is not made by sulfuric acid. Chlorine can be used as a bleach and sulfur dioxide is used as a food preservative. And vanadium pentaoxide is catalyst. Correct answer is C. Question 24. Which property shows an increasing trend in the elements from group 1 to group 7 across a period of the periodic table? A, ability to form anions. Now this is true because in start of the periodic table we have metals and metals lose electrons to form cations, while as we move towards group 7, tendency of gaining electron is more, so therefore they will form negative ions. For example, sodium is in group 1, so it will form Na+1. Magnesium is in group 2, so it will form magnesium+2. Oxygen is in group 6, it will form -2. Chlorine is in group 7, so it will form -1. So non-metals gain electron to form anions. B. Metallic character. Now metallic character is the loss of electrons. As we can see that the loss of electron decreases, the gain of electron increases, so therefore metallic character is the thing that is decreased, it is not increased. Part C. Number of electron shells. Now in the same period, the number of electron shells does not change, they are always same. D. Reactivity with water. Now alkali metals are most reactive with water, then the reactivity actually decreases as we move along the period. Correct answer is A. Question 25. The melting point of lithium is 181 degrees centigrade. The melting point of sodium is 98 degrees centigrade. Which statement explains why lithium has a higher melting point than sodium? Lithium is above sodium in group 1. We have lithium, then sodium, then potassium. A. Lithium has more valence electrons than sodium. This is incorrect because both lithium and sodium has 1 valence electron, as both are present in group 1 of the periodic table. B. Sodium is more reactive than lithium. This is true because down the group reactivity increases, but reactivity does not say anything about the melting point. C. Sodium is softer than lithium. This is correct statement because sodium can be cut by a knife while lithium is harder, it cannot be cut by a knife. But this does not explain the melting and boiling point because melting point depends on the interatomic forces of attraction in metals. D. The attraction between positive ions and C of electrons is stronger in lithium than in sodium. Now this is the definition of melting point. As the force of attraction is stronger, so the melting point will be higher in lithium as compared to sodium. Correct answer is therefore D. Question 26. From their position in the periodic table, which properties do you expect the elements vanadium, chromium and cobalt to have? Vanadium, chromium and cobalt, all three are members of transition elements, and transition elements have variable oxidation states. They also form colored compounds and they have high melting point. Correct answer is A. Question 27. The diagram shows the structure of an alloy. Which statement about alloys is correct? A. Alloys can only be formed by mixing copper or iron with other metals. This is not true because any metal can be used to make an alloy with other metal. B. High carbon steel alloys are soft. This is incorrect because they are hard and they cannot be easily shaped. C. In an alloy there is attraction between positive ions and C of electrons. This is true because alloys are made up of metals, and in metals there is a force of attraction between positive metal ions and C of electrons that are surrounding those ions. D. The alloy brass has a chemical formula. This is incorrect because alloys are always physical combinations, they are mixtures that do not have any chemical formula. Correct answer is therefore C. Question 28. The list shows the position of metal X in the reactivity series of metals. Which method could be used to extract metal X? Now in reactivity series you have to remember we have potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium, aluminum, then we have zinc, iron, lead, then copper, silver and gold. The reactivity of metals decreases down. Among the given metals we have sodium, aluminum, iron. Then X is below iron, then we have copper and silver. It means that X can be lead. Number 1 is the electrolysis of solid metal oxide. Now metals below aluminum are not done by electrolysis. Electrolysis is only done for reactive metals. So statement 1 is wrong. 2. Heating the metal oxide with carbon. Now metals below aluminum can be reduced by the help of carbon, so X can also be reduced by carbons. This is true. 3. Heating the metal oxide with copper. Now as we can see that copper is below in reactivity series as compared to X, so therefore copper will be unable to reduce X. Correct answer is therefore C. Question 29. An old commercial process for aluminum extraction used large quantities of sodium to convert aluminum ions to aluminum atoms. The modern aluminum extraction process uses electrolysis. Which statements are correct? In the old process, the sodium acted as an oxidizing agent. We can write the equation for reaction of sodium with aluminum ions. So we have Na plus aluminum plus 3. It is then converted into aluminum atoms. It means aluminum gains electrons and sodium will lose electrons. So as aluminum is reduced, so the substance that is reduced acts as an oxidizing agent. So sodium will be reducing agent. So statement 1 is wrong. 2. The reaction worked because sodium is more reactive than aluminum. This is true because sodium is higher in reactivity series as compared to aluminum. So sodium will lose electrons and aluminum will gain electrons. In the modern process, the equation for the cathode reaction is aluminum plus 3. It gains 3 electrons to form aluminum liquid. Now we know that at cathode reduction takes place, and reduction is the gain of electrons. As aluminum plus 3 is gaining electrons, so therefore this is true. 4. The carbon anode needs replacing often because it is oxidized to carbon dioxide by the oxygen evolved. This is also true because at higher temperature carbon reacts with oxygen to form CO2. And anode is depleted in this way, so therefore anode needs replacing. So in old process, statement 2 is correct. In modern process, statement 3 and 4 both are correct. Answer is D. Question 30. Which element is always present in steel? Now steel is an alloy of iron with other metals and non-metals, so therefore iron is always present in steel. Correct answer is C. Question 31. Aluminum is used to make saucepans because of its apparent lack of reactivity. Which property of aluminum explains its unreactivity? A. It has a layer of oxide on its surface. This is true because aluminum forms oxide layer which is insoluble and it makes aluminum unreactive. B. It has low density. This is a true statement, but it does not have anything to do with reactivity. C. It is a good conductor of electricity. This is also a true statement, but again it does not define unreactivity of aluminum. D. It is in group 3 of the periodic table. This is also a true statement, but it does not define unreactivity. Correct answer is therefore A. Question 32. Pollutant gases are released by the bacterial decay of vegetable matter. The bacterial decay of vegetable matter is the main source of which gas? Now decaying of vegetable matter always produces methane, which is CH4. Correct answer is therefore B. Question 33. Lakes contain a variety of dissolved substances. Which substance is responsible for eutrophication in lakes? Now excess amount of fertilizers, when they move towards lakes, they cause eutrophication in lakes. Now fertilizers contains nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, out of which nitrogen is very important for plant growth or for formation of algae, which causes eutrophication. So the substance responsible for eutrophication is nitrogen, so it is present in nitrate fertilizers. Correct answer is B. Question 34. How many of the molecules shown belong to homologous series of alkanes? The general formula for alkanes is CnH2n plus 2. It means if we have 5 carbon atoms, then hydrogen will be 5 into 2, 10 plus 2, 12. First one is C2H4. This is alkene because it comes under general formula CnH2n. This is not an alkane. Second one is alkane because it comes according to this general formula. If we have 3 carbons, then hydrogen will be 8. This one is also alkane because according to this formula, if carbon is 4, then hydrogen must be 10. This is not alkane, this is alkene because it comes under general formula CnH2n. The last one, again it follows this general formula. If there are 6 carbon atoms, then hydrogen will be 14. So this is also alkane. So we have 3 number of alkanes present in the given compounds. Question 35. The diagram shows the structural formula of an organic compound. Which statement about this compound is correct? A. It is a saturated hydrocarbon. Now saturated hydrocarbon means that all carbon-carbon bonds are single covalent bonds. We can see that each carbon-carbon bond is a single covalent bond, so therefore statement A is correct. B. It is an alkene. Now for alkene there must be at least one carbon-carbon double bond present, which is not present, so therefore B is wrong. C. It is an isomer of butane. Now isomer means same molecular formula but different structures. The molecular formula for butane having 4 carbon atom is C4H10. Let's find out the molecular formula of this compound. We have 4 carbon atoms, so it is C4. And we have only 8 hydrogen atoms, so it is H8. This is not an isomer because the formula is not same, so C is wrong. D. It will undergo addition with hydrogen. Only alkenes can undergo addition with hydrogen, and for alkenes double bond presence is a must, so therefore D is also wrong. Correct answer is A. Question 36. Which statement about vegetable oil and the margarine made from it is correct? A. Both are liquids at room temperature. Now vegetable oil is a liquid at room temperature while margarine is solid. So statement A is wrong. B. Both occur naturally. Now vegetable oil occurs naturally but margarine is made artificially. C. Margarine has the higher melting point. This is true because margarine is solid state as compared to vegetable oil, so therefore melting point of margarine should be more. D. Vegetable oil has fewer carbon-carbon double bonds than margarine. This is incorrect because in vegetable oil the number of carbon-carbon double bonds are larger as compared to margarine because oil having unsaturated carbon-carbon double bond is then hydrogenated to form margarine, in which double bonds convert into single covalent bonds. So vegetable oil has more carbon-carbon double bonds as compared to margarine. This statement is wrong. Correct answer is therefore C. Question 37. Which group is found in alcohols? In A we have double bond, which is functional group of alkene. In B we have COOH, which is for carboxylic acids. In C we have C double bond ONH, which is amide linkage, which is present in nylon or proteins. In D we have OH functional group, which is present in alcohols. Correct answer is D. Question 38. An ester is formed from carboxylic acid and an alcohol. How does the number of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen atoms in an ester differ from the total number of these atoms in carboxylic acid and alcohol from which the ester is formed? We can take a simple example. For example, we have one carbon alcohol, which is methanol CH3OH, and one carbon carboxylic acid, which is HCOOH. When alcohol combines with carboxylic acid, condensation reaction takes place and H is removed from alcohol and OH is removed from carboxylic acid. So we have H2O that is removed and remaining parts combine together to form ester. So we can write HC double bond O, this part, then we have oxygen, then we have CH3. The reactants taken was, this one was one carbon alcohol, so it is methanol. This one was one carbon carboxylic acid, so it is methanoic acid. Now the ester formed from these two is methyl methanoate. Now we can see that the carbon atoms are same in the reactants and ester. Hydrogen atoms are reduced by 2 because H2O is being removed. Again, one oxygen atom has been removed. So carbon atoms are same. Hydrogen atoms are fewer. Oxygen atoms is also fewer. C is the correct answer. Question 39. Which statement about the composition of polymers is correct? A. Nylon contains oxygen atoms but not nitrogen atoms. In nylon we have amide linkage present, which is C double bond ONH. So oxygen atom is also present along with nitrogen atom. So statement A is wrong. B. Proteins contain both nitrogen atoms and oxygen atoms. Now protein is also made up of amide linkages, so we can see we have oxygen and nitrogen. So statement B is correct. C. Pterylene contains nitrogen atoms. Now in pterylene we have ester linkage in which only carbon and oxygen is present, so C is wrong. D. The polymer used to make cling film contains oxygen atoms. Now cling film is polyethylene. And in polyethylene we only have carbon and hydrogen atoms that are present. There is no oxygen atom. So D is wrong. Correct answer is B. Question 40. Polystyrene is an addition polymer. The partial structure of polystyrene is shown. This is the partial structure. Now we can see that these two carbon atoms are repeating itself again and again. What is the formula of monomer from which polystyrene is made? For finding out monomer, first we have to find out the repeat unit. Now we have these two carbon atoms and we can see the repetition. So this is the repeat unit. We can draw the repeat unit. We have two carbon atoms. First one is having 2 hydrogen, second one is having C6H5 along with hydrogen. Now this repeat unit can be converted into monomer if we convert these side bonds into double covalent bond. So this will be the monomer of this polymer. In given option we can see that in A they have given repeat unit. This is not a monomer. In B they have given monomer, which has carbon-carbon double bond, and on first carbon we have 2 hydrogen atoms, and on second carbon we have C6H5 along with hydrogen. In C they have given something else. In D, on both carbons C6H5 is present, which is wrong. Correct answer is therefore B.
Thanks for watching. A like, comment and subscribe will be highly appreciated. You can find related videos in playlists. Stay happy and enjoy learning.